Hello, everybody. John King with Summit Funding. Thank you for joining me for my weekly live broadcast. This is part of my Business Booster webinar. It is Thursday, the 7th of April, and it is 1:30 p.m. on a beautiful afternoon. And thanks for joining me. I've got one person who just joined live. Thank you so much to you, whoever you are that you joined. So I want to remind you of why we are here. Every single Thursday, I am talking about topics that matter to business owners, specifically real estate agents and people in related industries, but really to anybody who is having any type of business that they are running and giving you ideas on how you can grow your business and some thoughts about real estate and where things are at. So today, our business booster topic is going to be on fear. And we're going to talk about really how to help your clients make decisions when they're paralyzed by fear. And I think that's a really big thing, especially with what's going on in today's market, with all of the challenges, the changes, the uncertainty that's happening. There is a lot of fear. A lot of us have fear ourselves. Our clients have fear. And so I want to talk about how to deal with that. I do want to encourage everybody who is joining me live to comment if you have questions about anything. I'd love for you guys to comment right now and just give me a shout out and say, hi, John, so I know who's here. I'd love to see a comment, just giving me a hello. And if you're watching me on the recording, again, give me a comment, just letting me know that you're able to tune in. And I really appreciate that. I will be bringing out comments as people ask questions throughout the process. I got a like from somebody. Thank you for that like. And I want to give you the opportunity to ask questions throughout this broadcast. So if you have questions while I'm live, post them. I'll bring your comment up on screen. If you have questions while this is being replayed, hi, Penny. If you have questions while this is being replayed, Penny, are you still in Colorado? I hope you're enjoying time with your son. If you are watching this during a replay, then post comments anyway, and I'll go back and I'll catch them later. So let's go ahead and get started and talk about fear and what are we dealing with when it comes to fear. And the first question is really, what causes fear? Fear is caused by a lot of things, and I'm not a psychiatrist or a psychologist or any of the ists that might have a better understanding of all of this stuff. But what I will tell you is fear comes from being uncertain about where you're at, and a lot of it comes from a lack of control. Most of us, especially us business owners, we are wanting to be in control. We want to know what's happening. As parents, you're afraid of what's going to happen with your children because you don't have control over that. You can't control the outcome, and that causes a lot of fear. And so I want to start with asking you again, anybody who's live right now, post in comments for me. What do you think? What are your clients afraid of right now? Like, as you're talking to your clients and you're talking to people about doing business with you, what are their fears and where are they coming from? So I'd love to get some ideas from you guys on what things people are afraid of, because I can address that a little bit during the next 30 minutes and give you some thoughts on how we can address those things. So please post in comments right now things that you find that your clients are afraid of, and I'll address that. But what we have to do is we have to recognize first and foremost, fear is real. And it is real for the person that is dealing with it. It is real for the person who is experiencing it. And sometimes it doesn't feel the same to us. And we've got to take our biases out of the way. We've got to say, hey, I'm not that person. I don't share that same fear, but I have to be able to recognize that their fear is real for them. And I think you need to recognize that two major causes of fear, two major categories of fear, and that is logical fear and emotional fear. Logical fear is, I am right now face to face with a bear. Pretty logical to be fearful right now, wouldn't you think? Like, you're literally staring down a bear, you're walking down a country road or a country road, whatever, or out in the hills, and you run into a bear. It's appropriate to be fearful, and that is logical fear. Then you've got fear of things that are not necessarily logical. I am afraid of flying in an airplane because I'm afraid that something's going to happen. Well, yeah, that's logical to some degree, but statistically speaking, it's not logical. Statistically speaking, the chances of you getting hurt in an airplane is lower than the statistics. Statistics are lower for you to be hurt in an airplane than they are for you to be hurt driving in your car. Yet we don't have the same fear of driving in our car. So that's an emotional fear that says, logically, I know that I'm not as likely to get hurt in an airplane, but I feel like if I'm the driver of the car, I have control. I have the ability to control if there is a problem. I can turn the wheel, I can hit the gas, I can hit the brakes. I am in control, or I trust the person that's in control because I have a relationship with them. So just recognize some fears are logical and some fears are emotional. But once you recognize that, especially when you're talking to your clients, you have to address the fear with what they're discussing. So if someone has an emotional fear and they say, I'm afraid of flying because I'm afraid that the airplane's not going to stay in the air, you can't really overcome that with logic. You start giving them statistics, and that doesn't change it because their fear didn't originate with logic. You're not going to be able to overcome that fear by using logic. The same holds true when you have somebody who has a logical fear. Address the logic. Address the look. You definitely have a real fear right now because you are face to face with a bear. So here's the steps that you have to take, and here's what you should, and here's what you shouldn't do. And emotionally, it's not an appropriate response to start talking about, oh man, I feel really bad for you right now because you're being about to be mauled by a bear. They don't need emotional tactics. They need literal, logical. How do I respond? How do I stop myself from being in this situation? How do I survive? Fight or flight kicks in. But here's another thing to think about when it comes to fears. Are the fears controllable or not? Both logical and emotional fears sometimes are macro fears. It is, hey, I'm afraid I'm going to lose my job. Now, if you're afraid you're going to lose your job because you're afraid that there's going to be a cutback at your company because of recession, because of change in environment, that's a macro problem. You don't control that. Versus, hey, if I'm afraid I'm going to lose my job because I'm not doing a very good job and I'm not performing very well, I'm showing up late to work, I'm leaving early, I'm phoning it in and not really doing what I need to do, well, then that's a micro fear because you control it. You have control over that. Don't confuse emotional versus logical fears versus macro and micro. You can control the micro fears, you can address that tactically, but the macro fears, you really can't. And that's a lot of what we're dealing with right now in the real estate and mortgage industry and in business in general. People are afraid of what the future holds. People are afraid right now of what's going on with the economy. Let me add a couple of thoughts that's going to make you say, John, if your point was to make me not fearful, you didn't do a very good job. We are dealing right now with an oil crisis like we had in the late 70s. We're dealing with an inflation crisis like we had in the early 80s. We're dealing with a stock market correction that we had in the late 90s. And we're dealing with a housing affordability issue like we had in the early 2000s, all at the same time. That's a major macro concern that our clients, that everybody in the world has right now, not to mention geopolitical issues, war, shortages of goods. We've got some pretty major confluence of events that's happening all at the same time. It's creating a lot of fear. And when people are fearful, they freeze. They're afraid to take action. When you are faced with that bear and that bear is coming towards you, some people freeze and they don't know what to do. And they're afraid to take the wrong step, so they do nothing. Most of the time, doing nothing does nothing for you. You have to take a step, and we have to help our clients to recognize, hey, you might be afraid, but in life, all the time, we're afraid, but we have to make our best judgment decision. So that's the first thing I'll tell you is help your clients with their best judgment decision by starting with their why. Why is the client wanting to do something? I'll use housing and buying a home as an example. What's important to you, Mr. Client, about becoming a homeowner? We're dealing with a lot of people right now who are just saying, you know what? I'm out. I'm afraid that we're at the top of the market. I'm afraid that housing prices are going to drop from here. I'm afraid that interest rates are going to keep going up. I'm afraid of this. I'm afraid of that. And it's a macro fear, and they're not making any decisions because I'm just going to hold on and wait. What you have to do is you have to give them some thoughts, give them some different ways to reframe what they're thinking. And a lot of this has to do with how we process the information. I'll explain in a minute what I mean by that. But the first thing that I want you to do is to ask them, why is owning a home important to you? They will explain, and continue to dig a little bit deeper and asking why. Why is that important? Why? I was talking to a realtor the other day who wasn't doing very much business. And I said, why is being a realtor important to you? What do you became a realtor a couple of years ago. Why'd you make the move? What are you trying to accomplish? Once we got to the bottom of why, then I said, great, now, are the things that you're doing today going to help you to get to that goal you're trying to accomplish? And she said, no, they're not. Then we need to take action, because sitting back paralyzed in fear and saying, I don't know what's going to happen and I can't control my situation, you have to take action. But the best way to get somebody to take action is to get them to think about their why. Why are you in the industry? Why are you doing what you're doing? And so again, if you guys are watching right now, you have questions about anything, if you have a great job, John, I totally agree with that. I'd love to get comments posted into chats. If you like this, please click the like button and share it with everybody that you know. Really, really appreciate that as well. So, talking about why and figuring out what their goals are, the next step really is to help them stay focused on their goals, because their worst fear will rarely come true. So if you just keep reminding them of their goals as they start getting a little bit off path and they start saying, hey, you know what? Interest rates are moving up more and I'm getting a little worried and I've been beat out 4 times on writing offers on a home. I think I'm going to tap out. And you say, okay, wait a second. What happened to your goal of getting a home that would allow you to build equity so that you could put your 2-year-old twins through college using the equity that you've built in your home? Has that goal changed? Well, no, it hasn't changed. Okay, then what is your next alternative? What are you going to do if you tap out? Well, I don't know. I'm gonna continue renting. Okay. And what do you think is going to happen with that rent? Hmm, I'm not really sure. I mean, I'm hoping it'll go down. Maybe you can show them some statistics at that point that there is zero likelihood rents are going to go down. Okay, rents have continued to move up. I've got a great video, great because I recorded it, but I got a great video in my YouTube library that talks about the future of housing prices, and that I talk about why I think housing prices are going to keep strong. Now, I'm not saying they're going to keep going up the way they have been. As a matter of fact, I'll be recording a video and releasing tomorrow, a little sneak peek, where I think we might be turning a corner a little bit and that cracks are starting to appear in the dam. And I think we might be seeing the significant rise in prices starting to slow down. And I don't think that that's going to lower housing prices. And there's a strong reason why. And I'll explain all of that in the video I release tomorrow. But what you need to know is that you got to keep somebody focused on their goal. And if they don't proceed with that goal, what's their alternative is the best question to be asking them to get them thinking and stop being paralyzed. Is what is your alternative? Okay. So here's what I want to spend a fair amount of time on. I want to spend a fair amount of time on how to give people information that allows them to process and take action. And so I'm going to explain a theory here. So bear with me for a couple of minutes. The theory is how we process information. So let's pretend that you are looking for a new car and you decide, hey, it's time to buy a new car. So I want to buy a car. How am I going to gather information? There's 3 ways to do it: with your head, your heart, or your gut. So your head says, let's go to Consumer Reports. I want to look for the car that has all the right statistics. I need to check the crash test statistics. I need to check the gas mileage. I need to check what the consumer ratings are. I need to create a spreadsheet that gives me every bit of information about all of those details. Somebody that wants that, they are a thinker. They process information with their head. That's what they ask you for. If you're a financial planner and they're saying, hey, I want to understand why I should hire you, can you send me a detailed list of all of the services you provide along with an outline of how those services are going to benefit me? That person's a thinker. They want more information, kind of the engineer mindset. Somebody who, by the way, I'm going to get to how you take this to dealing with fear and helping people make decisions in a minute. But I first have to start with, how do you process information? So if you are processing information with your head, you're like the engineer, you want to get more details, more details, more details. If you process information with your heart, it means you want to experience it. It's emotional. You want to touch it. You want to feel it. You want to experience it. And so you want to know that I can experience, hey, I'm thinking about buying a car. I want to go test drive it. I'm thinking about buying a house and their dream is sitting on the back porch and staring out at the wilderness behind their home. They've got this vision in their mind because they process information with their hearts, and then the third is they process information with their gut. Hey, just give me the bullet points. Tell me which car is going to meet the price point that I'm looking for the monthly payment that I want, and is not going to have the highest. I don't want to spend a lot of money in gasoline and maintenance, so I need reasonable gas and maintenance for within this price point, and that's what I'm looking for. So they process information with their guts. So the first thing I'm going to ask is post in comments which one you think you are. How do you process information? So I need everybody to give me a shout out here and post in comments. Hey John, I process information with my gut. I process information with my head, or I process information with my heart. I'd love to see what you guys are thinking right now. But here's what I'll tell you. We don't make decisions with that modality. These are called modalities. We do not make decisions in the same way that we process information. So as an example, I am a instinctual. I am a gut thinker. A gut decision maker. Let me say that differently. I process information with my gut. So I want to know. Give me the bottom line. Give me the bullet points. It's funny. I was talking to a guy that did some work on my house this morning, and we were actually having a conversation about this exact topic. And I said, "What do you think I am?" And he goes, "Oh, I think you're a thinker, John. You're really smart, and you know a lot of things, and I think you're a thinker." And I said, "Yeah, but when you came to my house to talk to me about doing the work on my house, did I ask you for a detailed proposal? No. Did I ask you for any real written out numbers and all this kind of stuff?" And he said, "No." And I said, "What did I do?" And he said, "You asked me how much the grand total was going to be, and that was about it." And we talked about the scope of work. And I said, "Yeah, that's because I'm processing information using my gut." And so that's super, super important. So Athena says that she processes her information using her heart. So she wants to thank you, Athena, for sharing. You want to see and feel what's going on. So people who process with their heart are people who you've got to give. It's got to be tactile. You've got to experience it. Erica says head and gut. Erica, I'm going to challenge you that you really have one that is your primary. Now you might have multiple that you feel. Oops, I thought I turned that off. Anyway, you have one that is your primary, and you have another one that is your secondary, and that's exactly where I'm going here. For me, I process information using my guts, but I make decisions with my heart. Now, you might have a hard time knowing that because I don't have a heart. Most people say, John, you don't have any feelings. You don't have a heart. I process information with my gut, but I make decisions with my heart. I am never, ever, ever going to look at consumer reports, but I'm going to test drive the car. I'm with the contractor that did the work on my house. I'm going to walk through and he's going to visually paint the picture. He's going to stand there and say, okay, so we're going to put the wall over here and we're going to do this over here. And he's showing me physically. And I'm like, yeah, I can picture myself there. Let's do it. I never asked him for the detailed proposal, but it's almost impossible to get somebody to tell you with accuracy what is their decision making mode. What you do is you find out which one they're not. So if he would have said to me, hey, John, do you want me to send you a detailed proposal with the breakdown of all of the numbers? No, not really. I don't need to see that. So Erica, if you're saying head gut, then I might say, okay, so you're saying gut's your number one. Thank you for sharing that, Erica. So if I was unsure and I'm like, oh, let me just double check here. So I'm going to find out first. Hey, Erica, how are you feeling? Tell me, how does this process make you feel? If you do not process information at all with your heart, you'll be like, feel, I don't know. Can we talk about numbers again? Cool, bingo. I've proven that you have no heart, Erica. I'm just kidding. But I proved that the heart is not something important to you. Just like when somebody says to me, hey, John, can I give you a lot more details and give you a full work write up? No, I don't really need that. Okay. Then it's proven that's not it. When you know what they are not, it's easy to know what they are. As you're talking to somebody, you say, tell me about your ideal blank. So it depends on what you're selling. If you're an insurance agent, tell me about your best ideal relationship with an insurance agent. Tell me about your ideal insurance policy. If you're a realtor, tell me about your ideal home. And when they say, oh my gosh, my ideal home is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, it's going to be on the south side of town. It's got to be between First and Main Street. It needs to be no more than 10 years old. It's got to have a white picket fence and it's got to be at least an 8,000 square foot lot. They're a thinker. Okay. Tell me about blank. Tell me about what's important to you in picking a mortgage guy. Well, I need blankety, 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 blank. I'm a thinker. Okay. If I say, you know what, I want a guy that I can trust that gives me a reasonable deal and is going to take good care of me, then that is a knower. That's somebody who makes a decision with their gut. So it's easy to know what somebody is. With a little digging, you can figure out what they're not. how you help them make decisions, how you take them out of paralysis by analysis or paralysis by fear is speaking to their second modality. So for me, when I went to buy a car, I knew what I wanted. Okay. I knew I wanted a Tesla. It's just what I want. Okay. So I went to the Tesla dealership. I knew it because I like technology. Personally, I'm not a. It's not about electricity and green. It's about me. I like cars that are sporty cars. It's got great technology to it. I knew I wanted a Tesla. That was how I processed the information. But I wanted to go drive the car. When I got there, the guy's like, "Hey, let's go inside and let me show you all the details about it." And I'm like, "No, can I just drive it?" And he kept wanting me to look at the details. And he almost talked me out of the sale. And it would have been harder for me to make a decision if he would have brought me in and had me work on those details. So you have to help your client by not feeding the other two modes. And you're going to have, if you pay attention, you're going to feed what you think they process information. So Athena says she processes information with her heart. So Athena, if I'm trying to help you because you're in fear, you don't necessarily know if you want to buy a house because you're afraid that inflation is going to blow up and that something's going to go wrong and you won't be able to afford the house down the road. If I keep talking about, hey, Athena, tell me more about how you feel about inflation and tell me more about your concerns related to that, I'm actually perpetuating the problem. I need to shift you out of that. And so I need to say, hey, Athena, I know what your concerns are. I understand that you have a lot of fear about this, but let's talk about what are your alternatives? Your alternatives are you rent, you live with family. What are the pros and cons to those alternatives? But they're still going to be paralyzed. So now I would say, because I know she's heart, I would say, hey, Athena, what does your gut say you should do? That was a trial. I have no idea if her second mode is knowing or guts or not. But I put it out there. Athena, what does your gut say you would do? You know what? My gut says I should be a homeowner. Great, then let's continue down that road. Or if you said, gosh, John, I don't really know. My gut doesn't tell me anything. Give me anything but a decision. Then I know that I have to talk to the thinker because I already figured out that you're a heart person, and so I've got to speak to your head because I tried to speak to your gut and it didn't work. And so I would say, all right, Athena, let's make a list of pros and cons. So let's pull this out right now. Let's do 3 columns on a piece of paper, and your first column is homeowner. Your second column is renter, and your third column is live with family. And let's list under each one of those the pros and the cons to each one. And let's figure out that way logically. I've taken you out of emotion. You're not paralyzed anymore because I've shifted you from being focused on whatever you're trying to gather information in that mode. And I need to take you out of it to get you from being paralyzed with just collecting more information. Give you one more example on this and then I'll move on and wrap this up. Somebody who is an engineer or an engineer mindset, they want details. They're going to look at everything. Well, let me look at the numbers to see what inflation's been doing over the last year and let's run the statistics and what if this goes up and let me put together a chart and figure out where on the spreadsheet this is all going to come out. And the problem is, if you feed into that, you're going to say, you know what, great, let me help you. And let me help you with what the future of housing prices are going to be based upon the statistics of if I extrapolate out where things are going. All you're giving them is more information that's going to paralyze them. So you got to take that engineer and you have to figure out, okay, is this person going to be a thinker? He's a thinker no matter what. Is he a thinker feeler or a thinker knower? And you put a trial out there. And you say, hey, Bob, I understand you got a lot of data. I understand you're still pouring through the data. What feels right to you? Does it feel right to be a homeowner or does it feel right to be a renter? And if his heart is where he makes decisions, he'll say, you know what, John, it feels right to be a renter. Okay, well, at least I helped you make a decision. Or he'll push back. I don't know. I mean, nothing feels right. Well, what does your gut say? My gut says that this is this way I should go. So I'm able to take them out. That's where paralysis lives. Paralysis lives in where you're collecting information and you want to live there. You got to pull them out of that and get them into one of the other two categories. So I just said it, do not feed the modality they are stuck in. The next thing I'll tell you, kind of the last couple things I want to wrap up with, we've got 5 minutes left. I'd love to get some comments on anything you guys have picked up here that you liked, any questions you have, any fears that you have, or things you want to make sure I discuss in the last 5 minutes. I would love for you to post that into comments right now. I do want to remind you, next Thursday, I am doing a broadcast, same time, 12:30, and I'm going to be talking about the 3 hats of an entrepreneur. So as we all are growing our business and we're deciding, we are entrepreneurs, are we doing the right things with our time? So we're going to be talking in depth about that next Thursday. Also, tomorrow, I've got my consumer focused webinar, which is focused on homeowners, either current homeowners or future homeowners. And tomorrow, we're going to talk about buying investment properties and strategies to purchase investment properties. And 12 noon tomorrow, same YouTube channel or Facebook, wherever you're watching this right now. I would appreciate you guys joining and sharing that information. And Penny said, switcho, changeo. Penny, tell me what you mean when you say switcho, changeo. Were you talking about what you liked about what I was discussing? I'm thinking that's where she went, was the moving somebody from one modality to another. All right, Kathy, I'll cover your question in just a second. Give an action plan to prevent paralysis. Guys, people need to know what's next and they're willing to take baby steps. So you've got to give them baby steps. You got to give them an action plan because sometimes it's super overwhelming. Thanks, Penny, for confirming that what she liked was the whole switching from one modality to another. I think that's great. But the key is to give your clients, give your peers, give your colleagues, give your family, if they know it's the right thing to do, give them an action plan. Say, hey, these are the steps that I want you to take next and get them to buy off on it together. The last thing I'll tell you before I shift to questions and answers, I got a great juicy question from Kathy. Know when to leave it alone. Okay. You cannot want it more than them. If they are paralyzed by fear, you may know for sure this is the right thing for them, but you can't make it right for them if they won't make it right for themselves. You have to understand that people aren't always going to follow the right path, and their free will says they can make a decision and have a different idea of what the right path is. So be clear, know when enough is enough. Don't beat a dead horse, but often we can help somebody come up with decisions that will walk them out of paralysis using the techniques that I talked about today. All right. Speaking of paralysis and speaking of fear, Kathy said, is there any truth to the fact that interest rates could go up to 8% by June? Whew, that is a loaded question. The answer is absolutely. There's truth that it could be at 8%. It could be at 12%, but I don't think it's likely. I think that here's the deal. And I'm going to talk about this in depth in a video that I release tomorrow. We are definitely feeling the impact of the housing market shift due to interest rates going up. And I already have clients who are saying, you know what, I'm tapping out. I just can't afford it at this point. I've got anecdotal evidence of homes that are going on the market that are not having offers as quickly as what we expected them to have offers on. So are we going to see a pullback in the market a little bit? I think we are. Now, are we going to see house prices drop? Check out my video tomorrow and I'll tell you. But the question about interest rates has a lot to do with what the Fed is doing. I'm actually happy to hear that the Fed is going to be even more aggressive in raising short-term rates. Them being aggressive in raising short-term rates is the water that we need to douse on the inflation fire. And as soon as inflation is under control, mortgage rates will stop going up. So this is going to sound backwards, but the faster the Fed raises Fed funds rates, the quicker interest rates will cap. We saw a huge rise in mortgage rates over the last 60 days, almost 2%, like maybe 90 days. We went from, high twos, low threes to now high fours, low fives. But that was because the Fed took a complete about face of what they were thinking and telling us they were thinking 60 to 90 days ago. And they've continued to say, oh, nope, we changed our mind. We're going to do something a little bit more. Oh, nope, we've changed our mind. We're going to do something a little bit more. And now, as long as they stick with the same plan, the rates move up based on what the Fed is projecting. And as long as the Fed projects the same plan, and the plan seems to be working, rates will not go significantly higher. It's every time the Fed says, oh, wait, I'm not really sure if that plan's working. Let's try something different. wait a second, you're in charge. And if you're in charge and your plan isn't working, is there something more going on here we need to be afraid of? That's why people are saying there's a lot of propaganda out there right now. Oh my gosh, rates could go up to 8%. They sure could. We went up 2% in the last 2 months. So could they go up another 3% in the next 2 months? They could. Do I see that happening? No, I really, really don't. Could I see rates going up to, a 6% interest rate by June? I actually do. I used to think we barely touch five and we wouldn't get past that, and we're clearly getting past five. So, do I think we're going to get into the sixes? I think there's a good chance we're getting into the sixes because the Fed has not given any clear confidence that they have this under control. As soon as they give us some clear confidence this is under control and we see a game plan that we think is going to work, I think rates will stop going up. And at some point, we'll start receding and coming back down, especially because the Fed's plan is likely to drive us into recession. I'm going to go into this a whole lot more detail in the video that I release tomorrow. Guys, I appreciate your time. I promised a half hour. I am now 33 minutes or 31 minutes and 30 seconds in. So please join me tomorrow, 12 noon, where I talk about how to buy an investment property. You can sign up at rsvpwithjohn.com. Please go to my YouTube channel and subscribe. Share this video with everybody you know. Click like. Um, uh, and whatever. I don't know what else I'm supposed to tell you to do. Anyway, I'm trying to figure out this whole social media stuff. Guys, I appreciate your time today. Please share this video and have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.